What's going on, guys? It's your boy O.Javier.TV, and today I'm going to show you guys the #1 tool that has brought my filmmaking from amateur all the way to pro. Here we go.
100%. I'm an original. 100%. This is my bounce. 100%.
Okay, so I don't want to make this video too long or too boring, so I'm going to go straight to it. The #1 tool that has helped my filmmaking, whether it is for my personal use, my YouTube channel, or all the way to client work, has been the ND filter. And to be even more specific, it's the variable ND filter. And this ND filter that you see right here is actually from Moment, and it is a variable ND. There's two different types of filters. There's one that has like a stationary filter, and then there's the variable one, which is this one right here. And this one actually grades all the way from ND4, ND8, ND16, and ND32. Now, the great thing about this is, at least for myself, I do a lot of filming outside, and a lot of clients also ask me to do a lot of work outside. So what happens is, I want to have the settings in my camera as cinematic as possible. What does that mean? I want to record at 24 frames per second, right? So that means that I have to have my shutter speed at twice that, so it's usually around 50. And I don't want to bump my ISO way too much because it's going to be super bright. And I also want to have a nice bokeh going on. So I'll usually have my settings either to a 2.8 on my aperture or a 4.0. So if I go all the way to 2.8, have that nice bokeh, what happens is if it's a lot of sunlight outside or just any type of light, maybe there's like snow on the ground, it'll make the highlights really blow out. So what I used to do in the past is I'll bump up my aperture maybe to 100, 120, maybe sometimes even 200, sometimes even 400, depending on how hard the sun is outside, to kind of compensate and really expose my shot. And when I do that, it's already taken away from those cinematic settings. The blurry is not good, so my footage would end up really kind of choppy. To be quite honest, it would still be a lot of highlights blown out. I started looking for an ND filter, and I came up across this one, and it's a variable ND filter. And what I did was, when I put it on, I was able to bump it up a little bit. And I guess you could look at it for the simplest view in your eyes, is that it's like a sunglass, or it's like sunglasses for your camera, right? So what I would do is I would put on the ND filter, and depending on how harsh the light was, I would kind of bump it up maybe like a stop or 2 stops. And what it did was that it really kind of filtered out the sunlight, so that way my highlights were properly exposed and you can see the detail in it, and it never messed up the exposure of my shot, and I could still keep those cinematic settings. I didn't have to move anything in my camera, and a lot of the times what happened was the sky was very blown out, so it would cut that right away, and I could still see the detail in the sky. Now, a lot of shots that I see on Instagram or YouTube for like those amateur filmmakers, or whether you just got your first camera, one of the things that I noticed was that, whenever they shot outside, or whenever they went from the inside to the outside, which tends to happen a lot anyways, but whenever they were outside specifically, the sunlight would really hit those highlights, and it would really blow them out, and it would ruin the shot. I saw I could also kind of tell when they were, kind of compensating with the settings in the camera, bumping up the shutter speed or the aperture, and it would take away from that cinematic feel, that motion blur. Things would get really choppy. You didn't have to do any of that if you just got the ND filter, right? So this thing has been a lifesaver. I know there are in the market a lot of really expensive ones and a lot of cheap quality ones, and you could try them out, and you could actually check the reviews online and see which one really suits you, and which ones kind of don't, even though they work and they preserve your highlights, they don't really change any type of colors in your shot, so that way you don't have to degrade your footage or worry about your footage being degraded or changed in any way. Again, super simple video that I wanted to bring to you guys. Something as easy and as quick as, or as simple, I should say, as a ND filter could really take your footage all the way to the top and make it really look pro, because you don't have to change anything in your camera settings. Everything's gonna look absolutely cinematic, right? And all you have to do is get this. This one is from Moment, and then, like I said before, it's from Moment, and it comes from, it goes from 2 to 5 stops, and then it goes from I think you have the other one, 7 to 9 stops, I'm not sure, but it can get really dark on that one, right? And the reason they don't put them together is because sometimes there's like a cross fading in the shot or in your lens whenever that happens, so they separated it into 2. It's very inexpensive. Trust me, you'll know where your money went when you use this on your footage. You still keep those cinematic settings, whether you're outside, in the middle of the day, in the middle of noon, high noon, where the sun is the highest and everything's super bright, whether you live in a super bright area, like where it's always sunny, like in Southern California or in the beach, or even when it's like really snowy outside and you know, the sun is out and all that light's reflecting from the bottom up. This will really come in handy. Something as simple as an ND filter, one of these little quick fixes that can really upgrade your footage to its maximum potential and full capability, all right? So once again, thank you for watching. It's your boy O.Javier.TV, and until next time, see you soon.
This is my bounce. 100%. This is my passion. 100%. This is my sound. 100%.